let's restart by recapping for a moment what we learned in the first lesson, or first hour, is to write JavaFX application, you need to subclass a base class called application, and then is where you have the choice whether you implement your UI in Java code, in imperative code, creating your border pane and all the stuff using Java, and mixing that with your logic, which has the drawback that you need to be very strict with yourself to not mix business logic with your UI definition code. Or you go the fXML route and encode the UI in fXML. There is a second very important thing when we talk about fXML. There is even a what you see is what you get tool out there that allows you to design fXML files in a what you see is what you get fashion. It's called Theme Builder. It's free. You can download it from the internet. There is a company, well, it was originally developed by Oracle as part of the JavaFX project. Then they put it out under the BSD license, and Gluon, a company, picked it up, and they are now maintaining it. So it allows you to drag and drop stuff and design your UI the same way you would do with Window Builder, for example. Just as to finish up the complete topic. The next hour we are looking at Eclipse 4 on JavaFX. So who in here has already used Eclipse 4? Okay, good. So first of all, I'd like to show you what you can build with it. So and then we learn how you can build it. So what our company is doing, for example, we are creating what you see is Get Editor, similar to Theme Builder, but with a very special target audience, which are not developers. This is a project for the German Department of Justice. So this is where the business, the guys with the domain knowledge can design their screens for trials, for example. So you have a trial where you are suing somebody because, or somebody is sued because he murdered his wife, for example. Then this application is used to collect all information that are needed in the Department of German Justice. And this is a GUI builder, so we have here the possibility to create a mask, and then we have a way to add containers here and to add, for example, a text field with a size and a label, hello world. The advantage that this GUI builder has, it is very constrained, that so people cannot create any type of layout or any screen design. They only can use those elements. They can add business or domain specific informations in here. And what we do out of that, what's really interesting and cool is we are generating almost all the code that the developers need. We are creating for them the fXML file. We're creating for them a base version of the controller. We are creating for them the base version of a ViewModel. The reason for that is the whole system that we see here has over 1,000 screens. So the business, the people with the domain knowledge here define the UI and hand over that to the developer, and the developer has already the artifacts to start coding the UI. He doesn't have to do that himself. So he can really create fairly complex UIs here with many fields. He can even take a look when we talk about responsive design. You might be interested, how does it look when I have only 3 columns or 6 columns or 12 columns? All this stuff is already encoded in here. So he has a preview how things will look like. He can even run the application in a test mode to find out, oh, when I scale it, how does it behave? So in modern screen designs, you never ever have horizontal scroll bars. They are gone. So you adjust your UI that you don't have horizontal scrolling. This is called responsive layouts. And this is integrated in here. This is the designing application, and when the real application is when it is running, so that you see that when I designed that, and I go here to my form, this is the form that I designed in my GUI builder and have it now running as an application. The thing is, 60% of the code of this complete UI is generated by this GUI builder. This means that the developer has to write much less code. This is a big, big project. Well, over 1,000 screens. We expect that we deploy that as a first version in 2023. So those guys are setting on JavaFX. This is something that we built with E4 on JavaFX. That's an Eclipse 4 application built on JavaFX, the real application and the GUI builder itself. Other things that we are developing with JavaFX, for example, a PDF viewer. In JavaFX, you cannot simply embed Acrobat Reader, for example. You need to have a PDF viewer, and we have now written our own PDF viewer that is able to view PDF-A document. So here it is. So, and this guy scales extremely good. So we can even zoom there. So this is all JavaFX. This is what you can do with JavaFX. You can have two together, or so now two screens together. So two pages next to each other.
Do you have completely rendered in JavaFX or as the embedded view?
No. We are reading the PDF file, transforming it to JavaFX scene graph informations. Okay. So PDF is the best specification I've ever read is the PDF specification. If you ever have to write a specification, take a look how they wrote the PDF specification. It's brilliant. You have examples all over. It really defines how things work. It's excellent. It's the best specification I've ever read.
What is PDF?
PDF. Sorry, PDF. It's really a fantastic specification. And all you need to do is to read the PDF file, which is nothing more than, in fact, you have graphic operations. So you have transformations and you have text blocks. So it's a stack, and you apply transformations all the time. Matches very good what JavaFX is doing, because you can really build the hierarchy that you have in PDF in JavaFX. There's some trickery going on, but in the end, this is really a good example what cool stuff we can do with JavaFX. We can do annotations. We wrote that because one of the main problems that we have is when you have scanned in documents, that if you have to mark something, most free PDF readers that you get on the market fail when the line is not really straight, but let's say an angle of 5 degrees, then they stop working with the marking of text, for example. And we have here very special features with annotations and all the stuff in there. So this is another project that we are working on.
Do you support PDF forms?
No, PDF-A has no PDF forms. And we don't need that. And it's closed source. This is not something, same as the GUI builder itself, they are not open source. They are commercial projects for customers. So I just can show you what you can do. Another thing I've been working on, you can not only create form-based UIs, you even can create things like an IDE. This is an IDE that I've written on top of Eclipse with a different UI. So here I have a Java editor, and I can do auto-completion, for example. So I use GDT core, and on top of that I put JavaFX as a UI toolkit. And out of that I get that. So I can really implement even an IDE on top of Eclipse 4 plus JavaFX. So it's really, really a powerful technology, and we are applying it all over. Okay, this is for examples that can be built now let's build something ourselves. First thing we need to do is, when you do Eclipse RCP or Eclipse development, the first thing you need to do, and please do it all the time, you need to define a target platform, and you need never ever program against the Eclipse IDE itself. First step in each project has to be to define and set up your own target platform. That's an absolute must. So, to define the target platform in Eclipse, you go to the Preferences, then you go to Plugin Development. There is a section called Target Platform, and currently your current target platform is the Eclipse IDE you are running in. And it's never a good idea to develop against the Eclipse IDE itself, unless you develop an IDE plugin, of course, right? So then it makes probably sense to run against Eclipse itself. So you all copied the zip files to your system. So on this screen, you click the Add button. You choose an empty target. Give it a name. The name doesn't matter. Now we need to point it to a so-called P2 repository. So in the Add button, you choose Software Sites. On the Add button, you choose Archive, because it is a zip folder I gave you, right? Now navigate to the location where you put the zip files. And choose FXClipse Runtime Repo. This repo contains the runtime components. It's not meant to be installed into your IDE. It's only meant to set up a target platform for your development. Never install that into your IDE. Your IDE will be broken afterwards. This is not meant to be installed into the IDE. I repeat, never do that. In the section here, we have FXClipse target platform feature. What we have there is a completely self-contained target platform. So everything in there is resolved. So there are no dangling references to external project. It's self-contained. So you choose target platform feature. And then there is a very important step. And the problem is that there is a bug in this editor here. It calls out to P2 in a wrong way. And we are, for example, having imports for JavaFX, XML, JavaFX, security. And the resolver that is running here will say this target is not resolvable. You need to uncheck include required software. If you keep that checkbox, you will get an error when you click Finish. This is a nightly build from the 3.1 stream of FXClipse. So it's not the released version, it's a 3.1 version of that.
So but I can use the 3.0 from...
You can, or you can point it to the web. So the URL for the web is, let me just give you an editor that I can write you the URL for the web. So new file, web.txt. If you point it to http download eclipse.org/fxclipse/ runtime nightly site. This is the same content that we have in our zip file.
Is there possible a chance that Eclipse will move over to fully integrating Maven, so to get rid of this D2 shit?
Yep. In our free, we are now in our 1 where we do JavaFX, then we have E4, and in the last hour, we at FXClipse are moving away from PDE. We are moving to a POM first, BND, Maven story. So this is only true for E4 on JavaFX. This is not true for E4 on SWT. I'm talking here on the E4, on the FXClipse project, E4 on JavaFX. And we are making this move. Our main reason for making this move is we don't want to constrain ourselves to the Eclipse IDE. We want you to choose IntelliJ, NetBeans, VS Code, whatever IDE you want. I'm not selling IDEs. I'm selling runtime platforms, right? And I'm selling support for that. So I have no.
Despite that, the Maven build Tycho is massive.
Yeah, no Tycho anymore. It's just Maven, pure Maven, pure Maven. So. We are publishing the artifacts in our own Maven repository, which is public, and in future with 4.0 we will publish them to Maven Central. So for E4 on JavaFX, the story in future is that you can still use manifest first as you do today, but we advise you in future to move to a POM first BND development story, because it allows you to use, one guy is using IntelliJ, the other guy is using Eclipse, and the third one is using NetBeans. And they want to work together on a project, and that's possible if you use Maven or Gradle, but not if you use PDE with manifest first. This is supported a little bit in IntelliJ, almost no support in NetBeans for that, so it doesn't work. And it's not the correct way to do it. So for E4 on JavaFX, in future, you will be safe. E4 on SWT is another story. I'm not looking into that. So if someone wants to look into it, do it, but it's not my job.
From this update set,
there's also the same category should be there. So what we have chosen here is you should have the target platform feature. This one. This one. It should be the same, the target platform feature. We will now download the stuff from the internet. So, good. Okay. The first thing, and something that annoys me a lot when I do E4 and SWT development, the wizards I get, they are creating something that I think is not appropriate for a commercial product. It generates a product that is not based on a feature. It's generating no Maven or at least Tycho infrastructure to get a headless build running. So it's not a good example how to start a project. That's why E4 on JavaFX has its own wizard to create a complete project setup with immediately a Tycho-based headless build at least. So you're doing that by new project. And in the JavaFX section, there is the first item is E4 on JavaFX, E4 application projects. The wizard asks you, and that's important, for a bundle prefix. This means we are not generating one Eclipse project, we are generating multiple Eclipse projects. This means AT best solution sample. Execution environment, if you have like Java 9 installed, please not.
Is this folder you're working on the project explorer? What kind is it?
I'm using working sets,
Yeah.
but And the last step is you can add P2 updating to it. And a product name, because what we also generate for you is a setup that you can create a setup exe or a DMG package or a RPM or DEP package on Linux. So this is the last dialog here. Sample app. And what you get out of that is not one project, you get multiple projects. You get an application project, which is the root of your application. You get a feature project that contains your application's features. Currently, there's only one bundle in it, it's the app. But if you add more, you add your own bundles, OSGI bundles to this feature. It has a product project where the product definition takes place. And it has a relang for release engineering project. So, what you get with that, you immediately run as Maven clean package. Well, now Maven starts off and downloads the whole internet. But you have now immediately a commercial ready project set up with a headless build running. And most when you get to companies and you see that they are still building their project by clicking export in Eclipse, that's not how commercial applications work or how you do professional software development. A headless build has to be part from your product from day one. Introducing it after 6 months of development is not fun. So, well, it now takes time, but in the end, we have completely generated a complete project setup for you. Okay, so Eclipse 4 historically had two ideas in mind. The first idea was that we wanted to change the programming pattern that you're using. In Eclipse 3.x, you have a lot of statics, so we reached out to statics. Platform UI, .get workbench, .get active window, .get blah, blah, blah. In Eclipse 4, we wanted to change that and apply modern software development. So the programming pattern that we defined was we want to use dependency injection. We want you to write code that has 0 framework dependencies. So your business components should not depend on an Eclipse framework. Naturally, you are writing UI, so you need to depend on SWT or on JavaFX or on Swing. But your business code should not have any reference to Eclipse code. And in the 3.x world, you often see people are subclassing view part or editor part, and then you're already bound to the Eclipse framework. And this is not the way to develop software in 2017. The way is to write components that are loosely coupled and can live in any framework on the world. Whether it's Eclipse, tomorrow it's, I don't know, NetBeans, and in 10 years it's IntelliJ. You should not constrain yourself in your business code to the framework you're running in. This is something that is very famous on the web, where you have dependency injection with Spring, who made it big in the end, and we've taken that and brought it to the desktop. So, whenever you write code, make sure that you never ever reference Eclipse framework dependencies. That's an absolute must have, if you ask me. You can even violate that easily with Eclipse 4 as well. But by using a clean and good architecture, you can make sure that your components are not depending on Eclipse. They even have no idea that they're running in OSGI. There is no need to reference in your code unless you're doing very fancy OSGI stuff. There is no reason for you to reference any OSGI API. Never ever. There is no reason for it. So, good software architecture with dependency injection. The second thing when we designed Eclipse 4 was that in Eclipse 3.x you had this plugin XML stuff where you contributed views and perspectives and parts. And if you have a very complex product, it's very hard to imagine how will the resulting UI look like? How many perspectives do I have? Are they split left to right, top to bottom? I don't know. I have no idea anymore. So we thought it might be a good idea to give you a concrete representation of the UI in a central place. And this is what we call the application model. And if you write an Eclipse 4 application, the first thing and what you always have, it's not have to have, but most of the time you will have a root E4 application model. So here we have, it's also similar to a scene graph that we have here, or you can compare it to a browser DOM, where we define what elements are going into our UI. For example, we have application, and the application has a list of windows and dialogues. So when we want to write an application that has a window, then we create here a trimmed window. Then we give it, let's position it at 100, 100, and 800 by 600. And give it a title. Hello, Eclipse. Con. If you look at this model, you immediately know how the UI would look like. Well, we have a model. We said it has this application has one window, and that's it. So when we run that application, and please run it by the already pre-generated configuration here. Run as actually it doesn't work. Does it work for you?
Yes.
Yeah. So what did I do wrong?
I have a problem to resolve the target platform.
You forgot to remove the checkbox in the. If you go back to.
Maybe your problem is with Eclipse in the configuration.
When you need to uncheck include required software on this dialog. If you have that one checked, it will fail to resolve the target.
How to reach this dialog?
Window, preferences, then in your target platform edit, then here, once more edit, and then select the, this dialog is, and then remove the checkbox here, include required software.
Remove this now first. This one, yes. The above is remove and edit. Now first line is the wall first, it's in the drop down. And remove this check. And target.
No.
Was the last. And the platform feature.
Is it RCPE4 target platform feature or
No,
target?
the target platform feature is the correct one. So for you, the thing is launching, right? Anybody else has a problem like I have? Clear, apply, run, clear. No. Theme with ID default is not known. It's good that it's the so console. Apply, run, clear. configuration.
Before on SWT this problem is with HNFDS. I don't know if you
Yeah, but this is part of the feature here normally.
It's not included. I checked.
Yeah. But that is normally, well, if it's running for you, no. The problem is that because of the screen size, I have no idea what's going on. Unsupported class. Oh! I love it. I know what the problem is. So, This is because I have installed Java 8, Java 9. So the compiler level now was set to Java 9, so it was unable to load the class because it's compiled for Java 9. Clear? Thank you. Okay, good. Okay, so we have now an application with one window. When we want to add perspectives to our window, what we create in our model is, in our control section, we create a perspective stack. In 3.x, perspective have been mandatory. There was no way to write a 3.x application without a perspective. Impossible. You always had to have one perspective, even if it was only one. In Eclipse 4, it's optional. You can have a perspective or you cannot have a perspective. It's up to you in the end. So when you want to have a perspective, you have a perspective stack, and in the perspective stack, you can create a perspective with a name, my perspective. And in the perspective, you can now split the perspective in two horizontally, and then the leaf elements in the perspective are so-called parts. If you look at that model is defined in a way that it's Widget Toolkit agnostic. So this model can be loaded by an E4 on SWT application, and it can be loaded by E4 on JavaFX. There is no difference. The application model stays completely the same. So that's why we are not using here sesh form as a term, or when we have tabs, we don't call it CTab folder, we call it a stack. Okay, so this model is toolkit agnostic. When the Eclipse 4 application platform is starting up, it loads this application model similar to FXML. FXML loader took an FXML file and created a UI out of that. A very similar thing is happening in Eclipse 4. When the application starts up, it loads this model and transforms all information in there, when you run with SWT, to a SWT shell, composite, CTab folder, I don't know. If you run it with E4 on JavaFX, it transforms it to a stage, to a border pane, to a JavaFX menu. So the thing is, this model encodes the UI, and then it's a service coming along, takes this model and makes out of that a UI. This interface you can find yourself. It's the presentation engine. It's interesting enough, the interface that you have to implement to support another toolkit in the Eclipse 4 world is an interface that has 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 methods. This is the interface where the UI representation, the model, gets injected in, and out of that comes a JavaFX stage or an SWT shell. This is the only interface that is between the application and the rendering technology of Eclipse. It's absolutely cool. I think interface with 4 methods and re-implementing that brings you a complete new widget toolkit. When we designed Eclipse 4, there was no JavaFX yet. So it was, JavaFX was dead, and Sun got bankrupt, and nobody thought about JavaFX. Our initial prototypes used Qt for trying out and making sure that our model is capable of not only rendering SWT, but also JavaFX, or Qt, or any other UI technology that is there on the world. This means that the Eclipse application model can be used for any technology. There have been people who wrote Vaadin renderers. They used the application model, loaded it into a Vaadin framework, and implemented this interface, and out of that they got a Vaadin web UI. We used that to use for JavaFX. There have been people who tried to implement the Swing version of it, which is not really tough. So in the end, the thing is, it really works, and there are people, and we have proven that it works. The only thing is that I think the only really commercially usable and really business-ready second renderer between SWT is the JavaFX one that we are supporting. And as I showed you, there were big projects built on top of that technology. So it's not that this is 1 or 2 people on the world are doing that. So it's really big projects have used that renderer. So it's really stable. I'd say it's even better than the SWT one. Many semantics that are part of the application model are implemented incorrectly or only half in the SWT version, whereas our version is completely implementing it. For example, any version in Eclipse application model has a visibility expression. Eclipse only supports that for the menus, not for the views, for example. We are implementing the semantics completely in the model. So whenever you put somewhere a visible expression, we will honor that and hide or show the element, for example. So it's in many ways is our renderer even superior to the one from SWT, I'd say. Okay, good. So we have our application model. We have now split the window, and when we look at our tree here, we can immediately, when we look at that model, we immediately see how our resulting UI will look like. We have a window, we have a perspective, we split the perspective in 2, and we have 2 parts in here, left and right in the end. So it's very clear what's happening here. We even can say the left one should take 80%. It's not percent, it's a ratio, but if you make that 100, then it's once more percentage. So 80-20, then left is taking 80%, right is taking 20%. So you put that on the container data in your parts. And if you launch the UI now, you see a window that is split left to right.
What project do you start?
There's a launch configuration pre-generated for you. It's here in the product, and you right-click on launch. In the product, there's a project called product, and there's a product.launch. Run as.
Okay.
The reason for us pre-generating that is that on Windows and on Linux is not a problem. The problem is on Mac in the end.
Somehow it's not working here.
Do you already once launched?
My product configuration.
Yeah.
Something mixed up here.
No problem. That should not be able. You don't need to change anything here, right? How can I right click?
To fingers.
Ah, okay. Let me see. This dialog. Buttons are missing. That's okay. Arguments. The problem is starts with this lines up here. So then you get a deadlock.
Okay.
That's a problem with OS X only. That's why we are regenerating this launch. But the first time you hit go to product and hit launch, then it will fail. Okay, now it's working.
Okay, thanks.
So the problem is that Eclipse always tries to be extra smart. And I hate IDEs who are extra smart, because Eclipse thinks it will have or PDE thinks it needs to start Java on OS X in a very special way. It's called starting on the display thread. And the problem is that now the Eclipse launcher is launching on the display thread. The JavaFX is spawning a thread and trying to get a hold on this display thread, and now you produce a deadlock. And this is not happening if you remove the arguments up here. It's totally insane in the end, right? So there are some other special things to notice in the launch configuration that are very important when you run. We are now running JavaFX in an OSGI environment. And one thing many people don't know is that when you do plugin development in Eclipse, then you have your bundle. A bundle is made up by a class loader. I call it B class loader. In Java, we have class loader hierarchies. When we look for classes, for example, string, we have our bundle class loader, and it has, at the top is always the boot class loader. Boot class loader. In between there is the ext class loader. In between there is the app class loader. So normally when I am in here in this class loader and I search for the class string, it says, oh, I myself in my jar file there is no string. Let's ask my parent. App says, no, I don't have it. Ask this guy. Ask that guy. That's how you do class lookup in Java. Fairly trivial. The problem is JavaFX is found on that class loader. Shouldn't be a problem, you think. The problem is really that the parent class loader of your bundle in OSGI Equinox is the boot class loader. So if you're in here and you try to find a JavaFX class, you ask in the boot class loader, and the boot class loader says, well, I don't know about JavaFX. JavaFX is on the extension class path. This setting fixes that. This makes the app class loader is still not there, but this makes the delegating bundle class loader, extension class loader, boot class loader. And suddenly we are able to find JavaFX on the system. So this is this small setting. The reason for that, well, it's completely against Java rules what's happening here. And nothing a Java developer would ever expect or ever thought about class loading. The reason is that 10 years ago, they wanted to patch out stuff from the extension class loader. So there was an XML library there in the extension class loader, and they wanted to ship their own. And to get that done, they changed the class loading hierarchy and directly delegated off everything to the boot class loader. Yeah. Starting with Java 9, the class loading hierarchy of Equinox is now the correct one. Bundle class loader, extension class loader, boot class loader. Pre-Java 9, you need to force OSGI or Equinox, not OSGI, Equinox, because in Felix, for example, no problem, Knopflerfish, everyone in the world has the same class loading strategy. Only Equinox is working against the rules, and you need to force it back to a standard way. This is this setting. It's really important to have this setting. It must be there even if you export the product. It's not just while you're developing. This is a really, real need. Okay, good. Oh, good. Okay, so we are now able to, we have now in the application model, all you do is you define the outsets, so the window, the sashes. If you want to have, instead of the sashes directly, you can have a part stack here, where you stack elements. List. So when you launch that, yeah. You see on the right hand side we now have a tab folder with our part in it. So when you write business components, it's not a good idea. Well, our business story is going into the parts. This is where we define our business yard. We have our forms to input stuff. We have our lists to select things. These are so at this level we add our business component story. But if you look at this project is full of Eclipse dependencies. So implementing your business UI in this OSGI or this project is not a good idea, because you cannot use stuff in here without Eclipse. So to really work correctly, you need to create a plugin project, IT best solution sample UI. No contribution to the UI, no rich client application. Finish it. Effectively important. The OSGI bundle or the Eclipse project where your business components are written in has to have no require package on org Eclipse E4, org Eclipse UI. You have no chance, you should have no chance to access the Eclipse framework. All dependencies that you have here, all what's possible here, you can add here dependencies to libraries, Guava, your UI toolkit if it's SWT, JFace with the viewer framework because you probably want to use MVC or the version of MVC that the viewer implement. Eclipse data binding, libraries, but not the Eclipse framework itself.
Even the core runtime?
No core runtime. I don't want to see OSGI there. OSGI is a framework. There is no need to reference. And org Eclipse core runtime is re-exports, even re-exports to me org Eclipse OSGI.
If we want to use extension points.
No, extension points are gone. In my world, there are no extension points. Everything is replaced with declarative services. There is no need on earth to have extension points. They're inflexible, they force your OSGI bundle to be a singleton. They only work reliable, well, in theory, they have been written in a way that they can work outside OSGI. I think nobody has proven that in the last 10 years. OSGI, declarative services, can run even outside OSGI. FXClipse has a support library that makes OSGI declarative services run in an ordinary Java environment. This means your unit test, for example, if it uses that service, it doesn't have to be an OSGI unit test. It's a pure Java unit test. There is no reason in your code to reference OSGI Eclipse. Only the special needs, probably if you have a very special application that installs and uninstalls a bundle on the fly, yeah, of course you need to have access. But if you write a business UI, there is no real need to ever reference OSGI and Eclipse. There is no need. At least not if you use stuff that's coming from FXClipse. So when you develop your UI, we have a class named detail here and a class named list. Let's call it list part. Let's stick with the terminology. Yeah, refactory name and detail part. Sorry. So, if you're coming from 3.x, the first thing you always did is to subclass here view part or editor. Yeah?
We missed this part, so this is a new bundle.
It's a new bundle, a new OSGI bundle, right, with no dependencies, yes. So, in Eclipse 3.x, the problem starts already when you define such an integration point, because you have to subclass something. You have to subclass viewpart and overload or implement the create part method and the set focus method. This is different with Eclipse 4. In Eclipse 4, what you do here, you use add PostConstruct void init yeah, once more Java 9 for me. No Java 9, Java 8. The class path settings.
So do I see right this Relang stuff in the Eclipse where this is the reactor POM?
Right, yeah.
Okay.
For me it's always, I'm generating all that always in a Relang project. You see next to it I have a build XML file. The Relang, this guy produces a P2 product and the build XML is packaging that with our installer library to get an installable application out of our system. Okay, so when you implement UI elements in Eclipse, you don't subclass a base class. You implement something and put an annotation at PostConstruct here. We are using a dependency injection container, and the dependency injection container is using reflection to create an instance of detail part, and it will search for a method annotated with PostConstruct, and will call that method. Now, when we create our UI, we need to attach ourselves somewhere. So the easiest thing and what we can tell the system is that we want to attach ourselves on a border pane. Parent. So we tell the dependency injection container, if you call PostConstruct, please hand us over a border pane where we can plug our business UI onto. Parent dot set center new button. So, writing business components in a 4 SWT or JavaFX is nothing more than creating a class, adding add PostConstruct. That's how I normally set up the UI in a PostConstruct. And there you're free to write your code. Remember, this code here does not reference any framework stuff. I can even run it as an ordinary Java application. I could write an application and launch it and test that. There is no need to bring up the framework to test the UI that I'm encoding here in my business UI. So how can we teach the Eclipse 4 framework that it should create an instance of detail part? When we go back to our application model, we see here a field called class URI. Before we can use that, we naturally have to add a dependency. So go to your manifest and add a dependency onto sample UI. Then go to application XMI, click the find method, and select project and references, and there it should show you the detail part. Wonderful.
Do we also need to import the sample UI or only?
You just need to add a my refactory name. You only need to, in your manifest, all you need to have is a dependency.
Okay.
Whether you use require bundle or import package, nobody cares in the end. If you asked your OSGI purist, he would say always use packaging sports. Bundle requirements or require bundle is working against the OSGI best practices. But the problem with import package is that most people are not versioning their packages. They only version their bundles. So I'd say if there is no package version and the bundle has a version, it's better to use require bundle. For stuff like JavaFX or JavaX inject or OSGI stuff, if you have to reference it, you could use import package because they are correctly versioning stuff. Okay, in your application, then you go to class URI, click the find button, check here project and references, and select the detail part. And if you launch now once more, it did not work.
Somehow I've also got the same problem. It doesn't. I changed the application XMI and it's always starting the old stuff.
Yeah.
Removed everything, and
the reason is that Eclipse is by itself, by default, restoring the state. That's what you expect from an application, right? You bring it up, you move the window around, you resize it, and you bring it down. Next time you start, it should have the same.
yeah, okay.
You can fix that in your launch configuration with a clear persisted state. This is throwing away your application model on each start. The other option is, the more radical one is, you go on the main tab, click the clear button, and then it will start all the time with a clear state. It will not come from the restored state.
I have a problem with the UI bundle, the manifest file. Do I have to add dependency I missed?
No, on the manifest file, here this dependency is empty. There is nothing.
On the right side I have a lot of JavaFX.
Then you use the wrong wizard. Remove all the JavaFX imports. Remove them.
Do I find my detail part when I go on class URI?
You go on the find button, find.
I only see a default.
And then project and references. And then it should show up immediately. Okay. So,
Can you please show the app again, how it should look like?
That's already running. The left-hand side, I have integrated my detail part, and it should call. The problem you probably have is that it is coming from a restored state.
No, I got that already.
Okay.
On the right-hand side, I have the same as on the left-hand side.
Then you have put the URL twice, right? So did you put it to the list part as well? You cannot delete it because it tells you, oh, that's wrong. This editor is sometimes a mystery in itself. So Olivier is the right guy to talk to the editor. You have wrote some stuff for the editor, right? So you cannot unset the URL, for example. Just put here the list, point it to the list part, then it's fine as well. Good. Now, when you want to have these two communicate with each other, so if this guy wants to send information over here and this guy wants to pass information over here, how can we do that? When we look once more at our application model, you see that those two are, well, they are not, they are almost siblings. Well, this guy and this guy are siblings, and this guy. So, from a container perspective, it looks like this. It is a perspective. If we omit the layout stuff that we have here, a part / container and a part stack, then the hierarchy is, it's our detail, and here is our list. So how can we pass information from here to there? Anybody who already implemented Eclipse 4 stuff, how would you do that? Selection service is one example. A more direct way of doing it? Dependency injection, right. So in Eclipse 4, all those elements are made up by the dependency injection container. And whenever you change information in the dependency injection container, it will pass this information to everyone who said he's interested in this information. So I can go here as list and publish information to perspective. And if this guy over here says he's interested in the information that I'm publishing here, he will get that information injected. So let's give that a try. That makes it clearer. So let's say clicking the button here should publish information, the current time. So this guy will publish private void publish time, and clicking the button will call this publish method. We will have to implement the real publishing process. It's just a placeholder for now. Here we will publish the other part. The list has to say it is interested in a value. This is done in dependency injection by creating a method. Let's just create a PostConstruct void init. There we have a border pane P. Then we have here a private label L equals new label, and if P set center is L. If you want to express with dependency injection that you are interested in something, you say create a method annotated with @inject set current time and date. To get @inject working, you need to add an import package. This method tells the dependency injection container that this guy is interested in a value date, Java util date, and it will try to find in the whole system this value. By default, it will look for something that is called Java util date. So this is the search string that will be used to find the information in our big Eclipse 4 dependency injection container. If we don't want to use the fully qualified class name, we put here an @named. And if you want to express that this value is allowed to be null, we add an add optional and add a reference to all Eclipse E4, the E annotations. Wait, I said no dependency in Eclipse 4. Well, this is a bundle that only contains annotations. This is an annotation-only bundle. There's no implementation in there, no dependencies on Equinox or Eclipse 4. It's just a bundle with additional annotations. We have to put them somewhere, right? So this is okay.
Excuse me,
Yeah?
some steps before it asks me to require the bundle JavaFX inject. So that's
Yeah, JavaFX inject, that's fine. Yeah, JavaFX inject is a Java library. It's coming from your GRE. No, it's not. Sorry, it's not from the GRE. It's an additional bundle that we install.
But it's not included in this annotation bundle.
No. This JavaFX inject is a Java standard, GSR 290
Yes, I know
something.
Standard, but
Yeah.
thought it's in.
No, it's not part of the GRE. PostConstruct is part of the GRE. JavaFX annotation is part of the GRE. @inject is not part of the GRE.
Okay. Can you show the detail part for a moment, please?
So now we need a way to take the new date information, push it to the perspective so that it gets down here. Or Eclipse 4 savvy people, how are you doing that? A selection service is one option. I hate the selection service because it most of the time works completely opposite to the way people think it works, because there's always only one selection in the system and it depends on the active part. So I'm not a friend of the selection service. It, by the way, would add a dependency to Eclipse 4 framework on the core of it, so no go for me. Most people, and the only option you have when you use the plain Eclipse 4 framework is that you add a dependency here on org Eclipse E4 core context. In this bundle, you find a class named IEclipseContext. It's nothing more than a hash map. I'd say an intelligent hash map. So when we use the default way Eclipse 4 would have for that, we add this dependency. Then we need to get access to this iApplication, to this IEclipseContext. We can do that by just stating here add inject IEclipseContext context. And now the publishing process is context.get parent.set current time new date. So the context we get is this guy here. From there, we need to go to the parent perspective, and if you set something here, this guy gets informed. You could go even higher. The next one above this is the window. The next one above this is the application. Yeah?
When I do a refactoring of this tree,
Yeah?
then I have to change this Java code.
Exactly. You are right. We are encoding here a very special layout of our UI. This works only, this information passing, if those two guys are children of the same perspective, of the same container. What if we move this guy to another perspective and still want to pass the information? We need to go to the window or to the application. So we are encoding in here a very tight coupling between our two components, because in the way where they are found in the application hierarchy, this only works if they are siblings. If they are not siblings, this code is broken. We encode, first problem, we encoded that in there. Other problem, IEclipseContext is the central part of the Eclipse framework. It's the dependency injection container itself that makes up the complete Eclipse. So you have now created a dependency on that guy just to publish information.
Is it not possible to use binding?
Those two guys don't know each other. They always have to communicate as a standalone component publishing their information. They have no idea who is on the other side and listening for this information. They just publish that information, and the other guy is saying, I want this information. When we think about loosely coupled standalone components, they have no idea from each other, and there should be no encoding where it is. The first problem that you said can be solved. Instead of using set, you use modify. Modify will not push the value, or modify on myself. Modify will not push the value to me locally, but it will search the IEclipseContext hierarchy for a context where we can publish the information. Now, where from does the modify know which context is the correct one? Well, you can help that guy. You go to your application model, and then to perspective, and then you see here a type called variables. And if I tell here current time, I configure now this perspective, because I know, okay, I'm making up here my hierarchy graph. So I know here that those guys are siblings, so I can publish information here. I will inform both of my children.
The difference of context property and variable is one is only name and the other?
Context property is that you can predefine values in this context, but only string values. You can pre-populate information.
So
variables means really, that is the, well, on the IEclipseContext, the API is called declare modifiable. So the API that's called under the surface on the context is context declare modifiable, and there it passes the string that we put in the model, and it executes this guy on the perspective. So we have now solved the problem of of not encoding here where to publish. This means when I run that, I hope it works. Yeah, it works. See, I'm getting the informations here. So this means that we pass now information. The problem is still that we encode, we have here a dependency on Eclipse, and I said we write business components that have no dependency on the Eclipse framework. Eclipse or Eclipse 4 by default has no strategy. Receiving information is cool because we have add inject. Publishing information in the system is impossible. There is no real good API for that. So, but when we look at the thing here, so to express that information, this is a constant value. We know that already. I compile them, the slot where we are publishing to. This is known. Then the operation that is left over is a method we want to call and pass a value. So it would be cool if somebody would be able, we can write inject consumer date publish and call here publisher accept. Now the missing encoding information is we need to encode here that we're talking about the current time, and this is done by adding an annotation here. It's add context value yeah, it's I need to add the dependency myself. It's org Eclipse FX core The trick now is we have now, just by using this small annotation here, we have now removed our compile time and runtime dependency on the Eclipse 4 framework, but still we are able to publish information. Somebody is smart enough to pass here a consumer instance, and when we call the accept method, in the background it calls modify with this value.
This annotation is in org Eclipse
FX
core.
DE core DE. So we removed now the compile time and runtime dependency on the IEclipse 4 framework just by using this small annotation. It is found in org Eclipse FX core DI.
Did we still need that variable in perspective stack?
Yes, yes.
Could I see that once more, because I've
Yeah. It is in the perspective, no, the stack in the perspective. Take care, in the perspective, not the stack,
okay.
the perspective. It is org Eclipse FX core DI. I don't know why the quick fix is not finding that annotation to auto import that for you.
You show the code again of the data.
It always, as I said, it always boils down to the fact that we need to get rid of all these framework dependencies to keep our code free of IEclipseContext. I'll leave that in and comment that out. And now we can once more even write unit tests and all the stuff because we can create a consumer instance. We can mock ourselves very easily, right? So to test if I hit the button, is the publishing process really happening? I can write a unit test, a UI test that really tests exactly this. If I use the IEclipseContext, I would have to mock the complete IEclipseContext interface to get informed. This is now concrete. The operation that I have to mock is just the operation that is there, not 50 other methods. Yes?
But now I have a problem that I have spread the name current time all my applications. Can I get rid of this or just?
You can. This is a compile time constant. You can make a constant class somewhere where we put all constants.
Can I access this in the model?
The model not. No, sorry.
But this
is something
problem we are facing with manufacturing.
it is, yeah.
And the model breaks, and
Yeah.
so it does not.
This is a string.
It does not refactor in
Yeah.
such
Yeah.
places.
There is no solution for that. So the only thing you would for sure put that value in a constant that you reference it here and you reference it there, right? Here as well. So at least in the Java code you have everything in a clean way. Yeah, a question?
No, it's okay.
It's okay.
I found it.
So that I fear we are not coming to the big example, but I think it's better to really close or really work on the basic stuff instead of moving now to the big project with the more complexity. There is another way of passing information between views. Eclipse 4 has an event bus with it, which are publish and subscribe. So you publish information and there are n subscribers to this information. The system that is bringing that is called the IEvent broker.
Just a question.
Yeah?
Maybe about the context value. This is actually an object supplier or something like this that binds to the value to the
Yes,
context?
yes. It's an object supplier. It's an object supplier that even sends, before it injects the stuff, it sends it through an adapter system. So instead of writing consumer here, you could write property. And now I can bind property to the selection of a view. So then I use JavaFX instead of consumer. In JavaFX, I could go here and say property. Also possible. The system knows property, I observe a value, consumer, context-bound value. If you have your own, you can register an adapter in the system and it will adapt to the correct type. The advantage when you have property here is I'm now in the JavaFX world, so I can bind that value to a property of a JavaFX control like a view who has a selected item, for example. So okay, the second way to publish information instead of using the context is publishing information that lasts longer. So when I put something there, it stays there until I remove it. Publishing information through the IEvent broker is more volatile. So it is there, and if you haven't listened now, it's gone. It's temporary information. This is durable information. Context information, event information is temporarily available. If you don't listen now, it's gone. You don't get informed anymore about it. So, passing information this way would be when we have our detail part, we can make the system inject an IEvent broker B. And publishing information then is very simple. So you publish information with B dot, you have two options. You have post and you have send. The difference is send waits until all receivers have worked on the event and then returns. So it's a blocking call. Post sends the event, the program is running on. So synchronous publish is asynchronous. Okay? Good. This means when we send something, we need to find a topic. My topic. And the data we publish is our new date. Wonderful. Publishing. Receiving, on the other side, IEvent broker B. Add inject. B dot subscribe. New my topic.
Sorry, what was the dependency again for the event?
It's org Eclipse E4 core services. So we already see problems popping up because when we do the subscription, we suddenly get a compiler error that tells us that something is missing. And if we read what is missing, it is missing a dependency on org OSGI. This means IEvent broker leaks in its public API. It was designed very, very nicely. Well, but the API they exposes OSGI to us. This means at the very moment we start using IEvent broker in our business code, we are binding ourselves to OSGI as a compile time dependency. There is no real need and reason for that. It's an interface with one method, right? So this was a disastrous design mistake, I'd call it, from an architecture point of view. We are leaking here information that there is no need to leak them. Well, it's even worse when you look at our core services and you look what dependencies is. Oh, this guy has Equinox common, Equinox, we depend on preferences. No, just because we want to have the event broker. We are depending on core context. Even it's re-exported to us that we can simply reference it. So adding yourself a dependency on core services, I would expect there are service interfaces, leaks almost a complete Eclipse 4 platform to our system. Insane. Anyways, so we don't want to use the subscribe here. There's another option that you can use that is more, at least it's better because it's not adding a dependency on we can have an inject public void set current time. I call it EVD from event. And here you put an event topic. It's once more not, it's date, time. It's from org Eclipse E4 UIDE. This dependency is better. It exposes less API than the version from iEvent broker. So here you then put my topic. This is event dot time. So we are abusing, I call it, the dependency injection container to push events to us. I say abusing because, as I said, I think the dependency injection container should only inject information that is durable. Whether I'm there now or I'm there in 10 minutes, I get the same information. We are abusing here that the iSystem to pass temporary information or inject ourselves temporary information. It's an abuse of the dependency injection container. A completely total abuse, if you ask me. Things that you receive through DI have to be pushed to the IEclipseContext. And if I ask now, and they ask in 10 minutes, I get the same answer from the dependency injection container. And this guy is violating that. So how can another problem that we have, say we have we are in Java, we have static compile time, dependency analysis, so we have compile time safety. We are now training that safety because what happens if somebody is not sending a date but a string? What's happening at the other side? There will no event will be received and nobody will notice that. Because there is no definition in here that this topic expects you to send a date. Nobody is telling you that. At least not the compiler. If you have a constant bool, you probably have Javadoc there. But I want to have compile time safety. When I send out an event with information, I want to specify this event carries with it a date object, a string object. So how can we do that? Well, FXCrypt is here to rescue. This means instead of iEvent broker, we use an event bus. Event bus is from our library project. It's called org Eclipse FX core. There you find an event bus. Event bus has a publish method that takes a topic object, the data you want to pass, and whether it's synchronous or asynchronous. So first, when we do that, we need a topic. Public static topic date my topic equals new topic my topic. Publish.
What's the required bundle for event bus?
Org Eclipse FX core. We have now because we are doing the sending not by passing a string, but we pass this topic object. The Java compiler finds out, hey, you defined that the topic here passes around a date, but you are sending here a string. I get a compiler error here. On the other side of the fence, the receiver is also using an event bus. This is gone. And it does a b.subscribe with detail part. This is where I defined the detail part dot top my topic. If I'm able to type, then this is a consumer private void handle topic. This is a date D. When we look at the subscribe method, it expects a consumer, and in the consumer is wrapped an event with a type. The T and T here match together. This is meant to be date. So the consumer here, in fact, is EVT and handle topic EVT get data. And now we are back and have compile time safety for our event system. So if somebody thinks, no, it was not a good idea to send out date, it's better to send out local date time in future, because date is I hate date and date must go, then you get compile errors everywhere you do the subscription. In the other versions, whether you use the iEvent broker or the iSystem, you cannot refactor that code with the help of your IDE. And now if this is too long for you, what you can write here is event bus dot data this handle topic. This static helper just wraps the consumer for you so that you don't have the unwrapping of the data value yourself. That's the code that's left with complete compile time safety. At the surface, we are using iEvent broker when we are in Eclipse, of course, but we're hiding that from you. Once more, in an interface that's found in a library project. There is no dependency in OSGI, there is no dependency in Eclipse 4. It's just those interfaces. We use SAM types all over, that you can use lambda expressions or method references, and don't get compiled on dependencies on Eclipse code. And this is always, well, we now have talked 2 hours. I only want to talk 1 hour on that topic, but it is so important when you write applications that you don't add dependencies to frameworks. Else, dependency injection is useless. It's better you go back to your statics. They are compile time safe at least, right? So writing code that uses dependency injection and references framework code is a no-go in any application you will write, hopefully after this tutorial. And as you see, there are ways to mitigate the problem, or to make your code a better citizen of a loosely coupled system of components that you can assemble today and tomorrow very differently. You can push things around, you can reuse them in places you never thought. Yeah?
Can you switch over to detailed part?
Yeah.
Please.
And there are, I think we could do another 3 hours on stuff that is part of FXClipse that exactly solves problems like this for you. The same story is because the same story is for preferences. If you use the add preference annotation to inject stuff, you get access to an Eclipse preference store, blah, 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 blah. All these lower APIs have been designed illegally, or I don't know how to express that. It's really a major architecture mistake that happened there. And that's why I never ever add access myself to these core service APIs of Eclipse 4, because those bundles simply leak the framework in ways you cannot imagine. And that's why FXClipse has developed replacements for all of them. So we have for preferences, we have stuff. For the adapter system, we have stuff. Multiple, there are really, really many things that you could use instead of the Eclipse services and writing code that is really a component without dependencies on Eclipse 4. Okay, time is up. Your card, 5 minutes card has not shown. Your 5 minutes card. It's 5 minutes to go. Anyways, thanks for listening. I'm sorry that we didn't manage to get to the real big application, but I can show you that we are really, really targeting the problem of not having to use PDE, but using Maven and the BND plugin for Maven to really write applications. You have all the sources with you on the stick or on the zip file. There is a complete project structure with a pure Maven build for Eclipse 4. So you can try that out, import it into your IDE, and you can run your Eclipse 4 application without PDE.
Can you publish it to GitHub?
Yeah, I will publish that as well to GitHub, yes.
I have a question.
Yeah.
What about the spies in Eclipse 4 besides the...
No, because they we cannot use them. They have a dependency on stability. So in future, well, let me start this way. Because we are targeting other IDEs like IntelliJ in future, we anyways have to rewrite our own model editor. The model editor is the first spy in the end, right? So we have to rewrite it in JavaFX so that we can embed that into IntelliJ and NetBeans. So we will have a replacement for the model spy. For the context spy, no, there is no plan for that yet. And what is the event spy? But those are the smaller spies, I'd say. The big spy is the model spy. That's where most of the code is in there. And we have to write a replacement because we want to target in future IntelliJ and NetBeans, as well as Eclipse itself. So this is also the main driver for us to get out of the Maven manifest first approach that PDE is taking and Maven Tycho is taking, is to go pure Maven to support other IDEs and other development models outside the Eclipse world. And it feels much more natural. Developing stuff with Maven first feels natural. You write your task classes in the same bundle then you write your business code, right? In Eclipse with PDE, you always create a fragment with the test to have the same class loader to get access to all the stuff internally. That's insane in the end, right? So we get back to the same model, yes?
But you don't care in this approach that you deliver test code?
No. No, we're not delivering test code because when Maven packages up your jar file, there is no test classes, and even because the manifest is generated by BND, you don't have import package for GUnit, for example, because BND is generating the manifest information from the Java classes that you package up in your jar file. So you are now, if you go with the Maven first, you are a better citizen of OSGI. You support all IDEs. You are not stuck with PDE, who is half that, I'd say, more than that. I don't know. Somewhere in between that and half that, I'd say, is PDE.
If you go in the IRC channel, it's absolutely dead.
Yes, and you can work. Well, you can even onboard developers who know. Well, every developer knows Maven or Gradle in the end, right? If you onboard them to Eclipse development, you first have to teach them about the target platform and all the freaking stuff that it has to do. And he said, I don't care about that. Well, I write my business components. They anyways don't depend on Eclipse. They only depend on libraries. Why do I have to deal with manifest and then blah, 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 blah? You don't have to teach them all this stuff. So there's a pure Maven project, pure Maven build story, done. And it's faster. The build is a lot faster when you use Maven first, BOM first, instead of manifest first. So the resolving of the dependencies with Tycho, if you have a big product, takes really a lot of time. So whenever I think it's how they deal with the SAT resolver that finds out whether all dependencies match and all the stuff. This is insane. So this is I see build times drop by half, which is important when you do common integration and you wait 10 minutes to get a test result. It's better to have it in 5 minutes, right? Or even less in 2 minutes. That would be the ideal thing, I'd say. So I don't want to wait half an hour to get my test results from the T system when I checked some code in. So I want to have immediate feedback, or almost immediate. The faster, the better in the end. So it's really, well, we can give it a try. We already published our stuff on Maven Central, or on GitHub, some test projects. I can run them in IntelliJ, debug them, everything, setting breakpoints, editing, all this stuff is working magically just by getting rid of manifest first. Okay.
What's your GitHub handle to find?
I will. You have my business card for sure. You can follow me on Twitter. My GitHub handle is the same than my Twitter handle. It's GitHub Tom, I think.
Thompson Tom, I found.
Yeah. GitHub Tom. Or the other is Best Solution. It's my company. So when I do company work, I publish stuff on my company account, or our company account. It's not my own company. I'm co-owner of it. And there you find a lot of samples, and in future we can even ask on our news group for sure, and follow us or follow me on Twitter. Read my blog. My blog is, anyways, it's referenced here from my GitHub account, Thompson Dev Best Solution AT. I publish the slides. I can even publish the slides for the free slides that I have for this talk, and add some links to the wiki, to the project. FXClipse is now hosted at GitHub. So all our development happens on GitHub. So we are happy to receive pull requests, feature requests, as GitHub tickets or GitHub pull requests. Help us create a cool, I think the platform is already powerful, but there are still things that we could make it even more powerful and even better integrated into OSGI. So we have big plans for it. Okay, thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial.